Yeah, right now I would say North America look a bit stronger than Europe. Scares me a bit. And my concern for a team like Moist, is there a player who fits this team better than Astral? Okay, going to look at Moist versus Williams Resolve now, and we're going to have a look-see at what happened there. So Williams Resolve, Breezy, Flame, and Noah Saki. If anyone who doesn't know, they missed out on the second regional and then bounced back and made top 8 in the final regional here. A team that there was a lot of hope around because they did well in some of the earlier qualifiers. It looked pretty good there, but they've been a bit up and down, and they were on boot camp for this event, I believe. So the boot camp buff in full effect, and then Moist is the Joyo Rise minus Vatira plus Astral. Astral not quite fitting into this team too well. It's had some success, but it's definitely been just due to their pure mechanical and individual ability that's helped them. And this is the same thing we're seeing with a lot of these European teams. As I mentioned before, looking at this full ranking, only one team in Europe was able to make every top 8, and that team was Carmine Corp, who made every final. Now for Moist, as we were looking there, their journey, they went down to Solary, then Heat early on, so they had to reverse sweep. So they played against Sonics, who've had a bit of a rough time here, not playing so good. And then Quadrant, that was a weird game to see. Quadrant on Moist would be going home in round 4, and then they lost out to Williams Resolve at the end here, where Williams Resolve, on the other hand, just lost to K-Corp, beat Sonics, beat BDS, fair play. Lost to Vitality again, fair play. Like, Vitality have looked good recently. And then beat Moist at the end. So Williams Resolve run, I'd say, is a pretty fair, neutral run, as they had to play K-Corp to start with. So we'll see how that game goes. In terms of this gameplay, let's look here. Swiss round 5. I'll first look at the stats, because this is where we start to see a lot of the issues. And I'm just going to do what I usually do, which is just go through them individually, but really wait for the boost stats, because that's where it gets quite interesting. Flame and Breezy having a really good time. Noah not having the best series. He tends to be the carry for this team, but not having the best series in terms of stats here. 2.4 goals per game for Williams Resolve, 1.8 for Moist, so fairly close in that sense. 9.6 shots for Moist, where 6 for Williams Resolve. That's really interesting, actually. That shows that Moist were putting a lot of pressure on, but they're probably giving away a lot of free goals, especially if Flame and Breezy are scoring a lot of goals with a high shooting percentage like this. That, to me, shows that Moist are giving away free goals where Williams Resolve are defending well, you know? Like, look at all these saves. 2 saves, 2.6 saves. So Moist overcommitting a little bit. Astral, pretty good shooting. But yeah, stats-wise, the main thing I'm noticing there is the team with much less shots have won out. When it comes to boost, all using quite a lot of boost, although we saw Liquid do that, right? Like, if we're looking at Moist here. For me, Astral just doesn't fit the same role that Vatira fit. Vatira was very boost efficient, high average amount of boost, kept himself on 100 a lot, where Astral tends to have a lot lower average boost, uses a lot of boost to move around the pitch, so when he goes to the play, he doesn't have as much as he wants. Rise has got bad boost management, and Joyo has reasonably good boost management, but, I mean, Joyo has a unique play style, which can be a bit overcommitting, so they lack that player to play around Joyo, who's got a good amount of boost in the tank, who can salvage the situation, and all of them are pretty bad with pads. Astral here is the most paddy of the team. We see here Breezy is the pad fiend for Williams Resolve, it seems. But yeah, their boost profile has never looked good since Astral came on board. Vatira, like I said, one of the best average amounts for a player that does as much as he does. To replace it with Astral, who has one of the worst average amounts for a carry player, it doesn't look so good there. Then when it comes to positioning, let's have a look here. Classic behind the ball. You can see Astral is now having to play a defensive role to kind of fit what Vatira did, where before he wasn't like that. He was more of a aggressive player. So he's most back. And yeah, you can see in general, the average behind the ball goes in favor of the team that wins. Okay, movement stats. Let's have a look here. Flame was always moved pretty fast. He stays supersonic a lot. Rise moving quite fast, but yeah, nothing too crazy here in the stats. But yeah, let's have a look. I want to look at game 2 and then game 3 and see what's going on there. Xperia, I did look at some Liquid gameplay earlier. I also have just uploaded my Liquid analysis. Okay. Nice try there by Rise. This is good stuff by Moist so far. This is the problem with Joyo. Like, he's quite pre-jumpy. He goes for stuff early. And you can see, like here, like if he just waited a split second longer, he probably wouldn't have gone because Noah went. And then could have gone, like, and read it later that Noah might miss and then played off of the more grounded play. But yeah, Joyo jumps a bit early for things, including pre-jumps. And when Joyo's playing well, it's an amazing thing, right? It works really well because he's able to beat people to the ball through pre-jumps and stuff, but when it's not going well, it can often lead to overcommitment and like misreads and things like that. Good save by Breezy there. So just look at the boost amount right now for Moist. I know both teams are low on boost. That's completely fair. But like, they get themselves in positions where they're one good touch from their opponent away from being broken down just because they don't manage their boost very well. Where that's where like having Vatira before was always quite a good factor. Yeah, you see, this is what we're talking about with Noah, right? We looked at Noah's grounded stat, it was quite high. Just getting himself in positions where he can't actually go, and like, Noah's got a pretty good... Like, Noah is actually a really good player, like, it doesn't show it necessarily here. So when he finds himself in a position where he can't go, he won't go. But like, he needs to get himself in positions where he can go more often, right? Again. Do you see here, this positioning here? Like, getting himself in a position where he can't go. He, in the end, does turn and go, but like, he only had one option. So to me, it seems like Noah's just not quite reading the play well and getting himself in powerful positions, like you see here. So yeah, based off the stats, that's what I'm getting from Noah. We mentioned about Joyo pre-jumping stuff. Like, why Rise or Joyo jumped early at this, I don't know. Right, there's no immediate threat here. So they both jumped so early that they haven't allowed their communication to come through. So they've committed before they needed to commit. And like, I don't know, in this situation, like, I get why Rise is gone. I also get why Joyo is gone. But yeah, they're just committing too soon. Like, they could chill out and like time it better so that it gives them the time to communicate it better. And like, their communication before that moment as well could be improved. Right? Like, double commits like that are often the... Like, if both of them said, I got it at the exact same time, there is no fair way to work that out. The communication has to be done before that moment where one of them goes covering right side or something, right? Or like, I'm next. Or something similar. But like, the lack of off-the-ball comms in those situations often leads to both players at the same time jumping up and shouting, I got it. Okay, so what happened here? Oh, it's just a mistake from Rise. So you see? What should Rise have done here? Just pick up some pads, right? Just some pads. But they don't have good paddage as a team. He didn't lose his flip, he double jumped at it. In this situation. He double jumped at the ball there. But yeah, they're like, boost is their biggest problem right now. I don't even know if they realise how bad the boost is for them. It's just so overcommitting, right? Like, Williams Resolver just walking the ball in. Yeah, right now I would say North America look a bit stronger than Europe. Like, K-Corp look great. Liquid have got this weird, it could work really well playstyle, but it's also like got potential to oh dear. Oh dear. I mean, at this stage they are down, to be fair. So like right now, Europe does not look very good just due to the inconsistency of all the teams. Like, Oxygen looked good in that first regional, but it was a bit honeymoon and, like, pop-off. They don't really have a sustainable game plan, so, like, Moist, like, they need to just Like, all these teams need to work on such fundamental parts of their team's strategy. Like, this game's pointless to watch the rest of because it's over. Like, fundamental parts of their strategies, which are their game plan, their ability to read what the right decisions are, and so on. So here, Moist are punishing Williams Resolve for an overcommitment. Right. Really good challenge from Rise. Weird bounce. Punish for the overcommit, and then Moist score. So this is on Williams Resolve here, like a bit of an overcommitment from them. Oh my. So yeah, it's kind of weird as well because we looked at Regional 1 for North America and went, oh wow, these guys look really good. Like FaZe look like the best team in the world. Wow, look how good they are, right? And then went over to Europe and everyone was like, wow, Oxygen look like so good. This is the best Europe's ever looked, and so on and so on. And then we went back to North America Regional 2 and it was like, wow, V1 Gen G, what a final. And it was, to be fair, it was an amazing final and like made everyone look really good in that final, and it looked really well structured and very efficient, and so on and so on. Then we came back to Regional 2 where we had K-Corp versus Quadrant in the final, and like that semi-final with Vitality versus Quadrant. We're like, wow, this looks like Europe's looking amazing. Went to Regional 3, stepped up again for North America, but I don't feel like it's stepped up again one more time for Europe. Like, Liquid's game plan, I'm not a big believer in, and I've spoken about that when I analyze their gameplay, but I can see why it worked, like, because they were playing good mechanically. Oxygen's game plan in Regional 1, I can see why it worked, but I don't think it's consistent. And I just don't think we've got any consistent teams in Europe outside of K-Corp, which scares me a bit. And, like, I understand this is round 5 of a Swiss between Williams Resolve and Moist underperforming. And, like, it's a whole different stage of a tournament, like, they're having a bad tournament. But, like, even when I was looking at Moist in the tournaments where they made the semis and stuff, I felt like it was a bit too overcommitting, and it was just the fact that Rise, Joyo, and Astral are such good individual players, which is still an important factor that they were able to do it. And even then, like, Atomic's not out of this world crazy good. Like, he is their strongest offensive player, but there's still room for improvement. Joyo's so fast up in the air, though, right? Like, look how quick that aerial was. Like, it doesn't get much more efficient than this when it comes to quick up aerial technique. Like, holding boost the whole way through, jumping before it hits the wall. As he's spinning up, that second jump sends him towards the ball a bit. Really nice. Yeah, you can see here, there's another thing Astral does a bit, is he gets quite far forward. And with the Moist guys, that doesn't work, right? Like, Vatira always used to sit deeper, and he would be able to react off of misses and things like that. Like, obviously on this occasion it worked out alright because Rise was able to do it, but, you know, that could have been Astral if Astral just held his push a bit more. So, like, there's some, like, lack of synergy there of recognizing when these guys, like, what makes Moist so dangerous before was their, how hard it was to read them. Like, when they did good plays, it would outplay people. When they messed up those good plays, it would still outplay people because, like, the two extremes of missing and hitting the play were so far apart. But then you need to be able to react off of the miss as a teammate. Yeah, it'd be interesting with Moist on LAN as well. Like, not just on LAN, but, like, after boot camping, right? What happens once they've had a bit of time to boot camp together? So you can see, look at the timeline. At the start, Moist are on the back foot a little bit, have to defend a little bit, and then for the rest of the game, Williams Resolve is able to hold them out. And so I want to see what that looks like. See again how reliant on 100s these guys are. All in 100 boost play. 0 pads collected. 1 pad instantly used to go get 100. That 100 isn't there. Super reliant on 100 boost pads. It's interesting. But yeah, like if they're a bit more conservative with their boost and a little bit more willing to just do lower boost plays, or even if it was just 1 or 2 of them, it would be great. But like right now, it's very much like use that first 40 boost to go in towards the play, and then you don't have enough boost to recover. So then you have to go get 100 rather than recovering a little bit and getting pads. Almost got a bump to save that one. But yeah, this is where Flame sort of does what G1 do really well. Like he moves around the pitch really fast. And then comes in for that intercept. So it works really well here. Just comes in for that intercept. Probably would have had it himself if Breezy did get bumped, I reckon. But yeah, thank you very much, School. I don't know. It's hard to say with Moist. Like, is there a player who fits this team better than Astral? It's tough. Like, looking around... Actually, that's a good question. We shouldn't think about replacing players at this stage, right? But if we were to look around, Raziers would be a good fit, I would say. Yeah, it's hard to say, really. There's not many players who are at that level, you know, who are at that top level of gameplay. Archie would potentially be a good fit. You just need someone who's good with their boost, right? Which there's not many right now in Europe who are that good with their boost. Like, and this is part of the problem as to why they struggle to find a player. I'm not saying that's the thing they should have done, but it's like, in hindsight, Astral isn't a good fit for the team. Like, individually, he is good enough to be on a top team. I just don't think that team works as a trio, game plan wise. That was pretty all in from Noah. Like they just don't seem to be aligned with the game plan. Where, whether it was intentional or not, Vatira with these two was a brilliant synergy of sort of similar to what Mist does for FaZe, but like Mist but with mechanics, right? Like, Mist is great because his positioning and decision making for FaZe, but it's almost like Mist with mechanics, right? Is what Vatira is. If that makes sense. I mean, we're seeing with Moist and Oxygen that having a stacked roster doesn't always work. And also you have the challenge in Europe of cultural differences and like language differences and things like that, right? So Quadrant, G1 and Williams Resolve are all teams that I look at and I go, what is their best asset? It's their chemistry, it's the way they play together. What is their worst asset? There are some of the players who on certain days don't look as good as the rest of the scene, right? You couldn't just take Noah, Flame and Breezy and chuck them in another team and they'd make the team better. You can't just take, you know, Relating Wave, Ixo, Cash to a certain extent you could, but like you can't just plonk them in another team and that team will be amazing. But together, they all play better, right? And my concern for a team like Moist, and I'm not saying this is the case, this is very assumptive of me, like for some teams it might be the case, for other teams it might not be the case. I do believe there is an element of cultural difference in Europe that affects team synergy, and it's why they have those ups and downs when they struggle to communicate and stuff like that.